Cartagena was founded in 1533 by a conquistador named Pedro de Heredia. And before him coming, 2 other conquistadores had been here before, and they were wiped out by the fierce indigenous who lived here. So then he knew he was going to get killed. But the thing is, the way Cartagena is designed, it's like a series of bays. See, there's this bay over here, and there's the island across called Tierra Bomba, and then there's another island over there, there's another bay over there, and then there's another bay on the outside that we're going to see later, and a smaller little bay where the port was. So he knew he had to establish Cartagena here. So he heard of this indigenous woman called Catalina, who was raised by a Spanish family, so she knew the ways of the Spaniards and the ways of the indigenous. So she was the perfect liaison between Pedro de Heredia and the conquistadores and the indigenous. You saw the movie Pocahontas, right? Right, so she's like the Pocahontas of Cartagena. And then, so then they started shipping the gold down, and then the word got around that there was gold here. So then pirates started putting their eyes here. And then 2 French guys, 1 French Canadian, and 1 French guy came here to Cartagena, looted the place and burned it to the ground. And then later, are you familiar with the history of Queen Elizabeth I in the 1500s? So, well, she was the daughter of Henry VIII and Anna Boleyn. So when she was going to be crowned, I mean, there's 2 movies of her on Netflix, which is Elizabeth the Virgin Queen and Elizabeth the Golden Age. And it shows you very clearly there that she, when they're going to crown her, they say, here's your crown, here's your country, but your country is broke. And we got the Spaniards on one side, we got the French on the other, so you better see what you can do. So she looked in her court, and she found this great sailor called Francis Drake, who was a superhero there in England. And so he came over here, and then he looted Cartagena too, like the other pirates, but of course he wasn't a pirate, he was a corsair, who was somebody authorized by the Queen. And he landed precisely in this tip right here on the right, and went along the beach of Cartagena into the city and looted it completely too. There's an official receipt of him, of the money they gave him, which was 107,000 ducados in gold. And that receipt lies there in Spain where all the documents of Cartagena are. And so Queen Elizabeth was so happy with him, she knighted him Sir Francis Drake. But he liked the idea of coming over. So he went with another big expedition, went down the Magallanes Strait down there in Argentina and up the Pacific and attacked the colonists of Spain in Chile and in Peru to steal the silver. So the Spaniards then they woke up, and then they brought military engineers and architects and constructors of the best of the world to be able to construct the 11 kilometers of walls around the city and all the forces that there are. And in this tip right over here on the left side, close to that island, you can see the waves breaking right there. So 2 Portuguese ships wrecked there, and they form a sandbar that extended all the way to the other side, creating a beach, and closed this entrance. This entrance is called Boca Grande, and on the other side is called Boca Chica. And then there's a smaller entrance there. So there they put 2 fortresses and a chain to stop anybody coming in. So with all these fortifications that they had built, nobody dared to attack Cartagena for almost 100 years, until the late 1600s, one French king decided he short of cash. And this was Louis XIV, who was the king of the sun. And then he was splurging money in wars, in parties, in clothes, and feeding his people rotten food. So he sends a baron over here called Le Baron de Pointy to come and attack Cartagena. And then when this guy comes over, he comes over with around 5,000 men, and he comes to Boca Chica, where the forces are there, and since nobody dared to attack Cartagena for such a long time, the cannons were rusted, the gunpowder was wet, they hardly had any soldiers, the guns didn't work, so it's very easy for him to take over. Then he went and came into the Bay of Cartagena and attacked the big fortress, which is called the San Felipe, and from there attacked Cartagena, and Cartagena surrendered because it was useless to fight him back. And he looted Cartagena completely too. They say that the treasure he took was like the biggest treasure ever, which was around 17 trunks of emeralds, 14 trunks of rubies, 4 trunks of pearls, and around 9 million pesos in gold. Right? So when you get to Paris and you visit the Palace of Versailles, all those beautiful palaces and all those things Louis XIV did, he did it with the money he took from here. So then the Spaniards brought more men, more guns, more cannons, more gunpowder, and Spain became the most powerful nation of the world because it dominated the oceans. You know, there's Spanish colonies all the way to the Philippines. So they were checking things around in the 1700s in the Caribbean, and they bumped into this very tall Irish guy with red curly hair and big ears named Jenkins. And they asked him, what's your business? And he says, oh, I'm just sailing around. And they went and checked his boat and found they had stolen gold there. So they got very angry, they cut his ear off, and they put it in a small box and they sent it to King George of England with a note. If any of your English come here anymore, we're gonna cut your ear off. So then King George said, I'm up to here with the Spaniards, let's just wipe them out. So he organized the biggest armada ever, with 30,000 men and 180 ships to come and attack Cartagena. And he appoints Admiral Edward Vernon to lead the attack. And this Admiral Edward Vernon was like the admiral at the time. And he starts recruiting people. I mean, he needed 30,000 men. And have you been to Washington, D.C.? Did you visit George Washington's house in Virginia? Do you remember what it's called? So it's called Mount Vernon. Right? And it's because Lawrence Washington, who was George Washington's elder brother, who nobody has ever heard of before, because it's not in your history books from school. And he admired this Admiral Edward Vernon. They were friends. And so when he inherited the house from their dad, he changed the name from Little Creek to Mount Vernon in his honor. And also got him 2,000 men from the colonies to come and join the group. So we had George Washington's older brother right over here in Cartagena fighting against the Spaniards in his attack. So when Vernon comes to Boca Chica, the fortress there, the entrance, it takes him 25 days just to take over that fortress. And 25 days like a long time for somebody who has 180 ships and 30,000 men. And when he wins the battle there, he says, this was the hard part. The rest must be easy. So then he sends one boat back to King George to let him know that they won the war right there. And then King George starts organizing a welcome party and has coins made to commemorate the attack. And just get everything ready. And then when Vernon comes over and he goes into the Bay of Cartagena after this time, he came in April of 1741. And in April, it's when the rainy season comes. And with the rainy season come the mosquitoes. And with the mosquitoes, the malaria, the yellow fever, the chikungunya, and everybody else. So then, to make a long story short, 12,000 English died here in Cartagena trying to take over. And mostly because of the mosquitoes and all the illnesses. So after losing 12,000 men, Vernon says, well, we gotta go. So when he gets her back to England, King George is ready with the parties and the coins and all that. And then he says, George, I'm sorry, but we lost the war. And then King George is so embarrassed what had happened that he had erased from all the history books. So nobody will know what happened here, how shameful it was. And nobody still doesn't know, except for the royalty. Prince Charles, Elizabeth, Camilla, Kate, William, Meghan, they all know, but nobody chased anything still. And then we had a protocol visit from Prince Charles around 4 years. And somebody suggested a smart idea to the mayor. Listen, why don't you put a plaque there in front of the San Felipe fortress to honor the 12,000 men that died here since Prince Charles is coming? Sure. So to put the plaque there, here comes Prince Charles, unveils it, ceremony, the flowers, the protocol, the whole thing. And then 2 days later after he leaves, somebody from Cartagena, from this same neighborhood, goes over there to that place with one of those big hammers used in construction and tears the plaque apart because they said it was an insult to Cartagena to honor 12,000 men that came to attack it. So erased completely right there again, and that's it.